Okay, let's crack on, shall we? Welcome everyone to our second webinar. Now, this one is about the our Smart Lift app, above and beyond with the Smart Lift app. As before, I'm joined by Gabby Holokoff, our Group IT and Systems Manager. Fortunately for everyone on the call, he'll be taking the bulk of the speaking duties today. Definitely haven't got to listen to my voice constantly, which is great. So what is coming up today? So we have a brief overview of the Smart Lift app itself, along with its features and benefits, as well as roles, pages and scenarios, and how you can get the app yourself. And if there is time at the end, we'll have a brief Q&A session. Just a reminder, if you could just stay on mute for the duration of the webinar. If you'd like to ask a question, please use the raise a hand function, and that's if we have time. But as it is, we don't have much time as it is. So Gabby, please fire away, my friend.
Cool. Thank you, Lewis, for the introduction. I know most of you are familiar with the app, and some have been using it for quite some time already. But if you're not familiar with it, or it's been a while since you've last used it, we'll quickly go over some of the most important features and what's coming up next. But before we begin, let me tell you why we developed the Mobility Networks app. We wanted the app to provide more value to our customers and to our partners. In our industry, we rarely had contact with the end user, so we wanted to be able to better connect with them. We wanted to be able to inform our customers of new products and offers, and we also wanted to double down on our promise of continuous improvement. Okay, so you know how some people lose their remote or it runs out of battery? Well, by using the app, the remote always stays in your pocket. So this is one of the main features and an obvious one. But on top of that, we have some features that are unique to our product, like safety mode, or the ability to perform over-the-air firmware updates, transfer logs and diagnostics, information that can be shared with the Mobility Networks group or with a master technician, so that we can act and provide remote diagnostics if needed. So the app also comes with videos. We're up to 50 videos now, ranging from basic, for example, how to replace the handset or how to replace the warning buzzer, just the LCD that only involves plugging it and plugging a new one back in, to more complex videos that show you how to remove a hydraulic pressure switch or how to service the lift, or in the case of FMVSS or S-Class lifts, how to adjust a roll-off from sensors. Another feature of the app is the inventory, where the users can see a list of all their lifts under their supervision, essentially all the connected lifts. The lift inventory is a benefit for the end user, as the user can have multiple lists in their inventory and can access them directly without having to re-enter the pairing pin. Also in our application, you can find all the documents related to the lift, manuals, brochures, lift specifications, and parts list are always kept up to date. Firmware update is another big one. Anyone can download the latest version of the lift's firmware, which in turn directly upgrades their lift functionality. So this saves time and possible human error from interfering with the ECU manually. So this is just an overview. There's a lot more to it. Like you can also see any of the lifts triggered events while the app is in use. And we also have an easy way to register your warranty directly inside the app. So let's move to features and benefits. Here we have a short comparison between our app and one of our competitors. For our lifts, in order to use the application, you do not need extra hardware. The ECU that's installed inside the lift has everything it needs. In terms of cost, instead of the around 200 euros upfront cost for the hardware plus the additional installation time required by it that our competitors are currently asking, starting Q1, the app will be provided free of charge as a single user license per lift. Currently, our app is in English only. For almost 2 years, the app has been available in North America. Recently, it was made available to the rest of the world. And going forward in Q1, we have more languages that will be added. French, Spanish, German. We're working on adding around 10 new languages. Based on our experience so far, we have found that there is benefit in using the app, and that's why we're going to continue to encourage users to use it and also add more functionality to it. So I'll briefly mention some of the benefits. So we have service reminders that will remind customers to service the lift at the correct intervals. We have lift statistics on the use of the lift. We have quicker diagnostics, the remote control, which I mentioned, that allows a user to control all the features of the lift with their mobile phone or tablet. We've designed the ECU and the app with security in mind. So we've got a safety pin for every lift and also the firmware updates. Let's discuss the roles of the application and the major pages. The app displays different content based on the user's role. We have two roles, a normal user, which is the default one that receives, that everyone receives after an account is created. And the installer role is a role that has more permissions. The installer role is granted only to technicians that have undergone the training. Once training is complete, the role is manually granted to them. So this additional role grants the technicians access to the installer page where you can modify the lift's parameters. You have access to all the videos, while, for example, the normal role, a normal user, only has access to a handful of videos relevant to them. So inside the app, we have a dedicated page that displays service partners and all our trained engineers, along with their company's contact information and location. In order to qualify as a trained technician and to also receive the installer permissions, the engineer has to enroll in the Mobility Networks University and finish a training course. MNU, or Mobility Networks University, is our one-stop shop portal for Mobility Networks lifts and is designed to help certify partners as quickly as possible. Here, a technician can learn about the lift's components, basic operation, fitting and installation, commissioning, everything there is to know about the installation and the servicing of the lift. So we've put the trained installers center stage in the app as a way to give the end users peace of mind that the technician that's working on his lift is trained, and also as a way for us to validate the technician's effort. Let's move on to how to use the app. After you have created an account, you will have to pair your device with the lift. The process is very simple. You have to tap on the plus sign when you open the application. You'll be prompted to turn on the Bluetooth and location services if they're not active. Then the application will start scanning for nearby lifts. All the lifts receive their serial number in the factory when they're manufactured, and that's how they identify themselves in the app. If it's your first time pairing to the lift, you'll be prompted to enter a PIN. And this PIN you can find on the LCD screen that is located on top of the power pack. Once you have this PIN entered, your phone or tablet will remember it in the future, so you don't have to enter it again. So the remote control functionality, it allows the users to control all the features of the lift, up, down, stow, deploy. It has the same decals and the same behavior as the hand control. If you have a door opener system installed, the application can also operate that. And also all the error messages that can be displayed on the LCD will also be displayed inside this page. If you're not using the remote, or you just stopped pressing the button, you will receive a disclaimer. A disclaimer will be shown on the screen that will stop all the buttons from being pressed accidentally. Also, for example, if you receive a phone call and you're operating the phone, we will cut the connection so that it prevents accidental operations. Next is the status page, where you can find useful information like the battery voltage, cycle counter, service counter, the rotary sensor that gives the sensor that gives us the position of the lift, the internal temperature of the power pack, the current firmware of the lift, the serial number, manufacturing date, and the last connection date. On the service and the product registration page, the service counter cycle and the last service date is displayed. The service date is set to 0 when the lift is first commissioned by an installer or after a major service. A number of font will be displayed if the service counter goes above 3,500 cycles, and the message with the red font will be displayed after 4,000 cycles, or if the major service date of 365 days is exceeded. On the same page, the product registration form is displayed. The user and the mobility networks both receive a copy of this form via email. Once the form is completed, we're notified, and the user will not be asked to fill the form again. Also on this page, we display the recommended service interval table. On the firmware update page, this allows anyone, users and installers, to download the latest version of the lift. We have on this slide 2 views of the firmware update page. The first one is of the installer role. So this they have more options. Here they have 4 options. So, for example, to change the type of firmware that's present on the ECU. And like I mentioned, the user also has access to this functionality and can update if a new version is available. In terms of the installer page, trained technician with the installer role can put the lift in full operation mode only after the commissioning is performed. They can reset the service count and the service date after a major service. They can change the serial number of the ECU. They can activate new options like a belt. They can change delays and tolerances, and they have and some more options. So without going too much into detail, after going through all the checks required for the completion of the commissioning of the lift, the option to put the lift into full operation mode is made available. When this is done, information like the time and date that the technician performed the installation are recorded and sent to mobility networks. We put the lifts into safety mode in the factory. You can think of safety mode as some sort of limp mode that is found in vehicles. In our case, it delays the deploy operation of the lift by 10 seconds and activates the buzzer. If you don't want to use the app, you also have the option to use the hand control, but it won't reset the service date or the cycle counters. So once a major service is performed, the service counter and the date can be reset easily by using the application. But this is only available to the certified technicians. Moving on to the diagnostic page, this page is showing all the inputs and all the outputs of the lift. At the moment, we're giving an indication of what sensor or output is on. The green boxes represent an active input or output, and the gray boxes represent inactive or missing input or output. On the same page, we can find the collect logs button. This allows us to collect information logged by the ECU and allows it to send it to a master technician or to a mobility networks engineer for analysis. So what else can the application do? Some of the data is saved inside the admin panel. And the more the user uses the application, the fresher the information is, and also more actionable. In theory, all we need is serial number of the lift, and for example, we can detect common problems. If the firmware is old, we may ask the user to perform a firmware update. If multiple errors are triggered, such like a safety two, we know that a pressure switch needs adjusting and if we don't have the required information in our admin panel, and that happens if the app is not being used on a regular basis, we can then ask the user to go to the diagnostic page and to send us the full logs. So this way we can see the history of the lift, including hundreds of cycles worth of information. So on this slide, we have an example. This is an FMVSS lift from North America. At a glance, we can see that the lift has the latest firmware, which is 134, has performed 21 cycles since its last service, and it was commissioned by an installer in July 2021. This lift also has a safety belt installed and has during the installation, the lift has experienced a couple of trigger outer barriers, which were done as tests. And there was no problem ever since the lift was in use. So, but we haven't tracked any more events for this lift. On this slide, you can see our master technician report tool. We know we can't solve all the problems remotely with the ECU and the app, but that's the direction we're going to. Common problems that we are seeing are mainly due to battery voltage or a pressure switch that was not adjusted. So, for example, if the battery voltage drops below 11 volts, the performance of the lift is reduced. We also have a protection mechanism that if it goes below 9 volts, territory where you start damaging the cells of the battery, the ECU will stop the operation of the lift. So we have access to this information in multiple places. It's inside the admin panel, inside the app. We can ask for the logs. It's also present on the LCD screen. So all the possible errors that the ECU is monitoring are displayed inside the LCD, inside the application, and also the logs in case we need to look back in time. And a different scenario that we have is another USA-based service provider, first-time installation. They requested support for a 2016 Ford Transit. A request for technical support was initiated by the service provider, and a description of the problem was sent along with the diagnostics logs. We used the reporting tool to analyze the logs, and we discovered that the average battery at power on was 11 volts maximum, and it wasn't going above 12 volts while charging. So after that, the dealer confirmed that the battery was OEM, and it hasn't been changed. So after the battery was changed, the error was no longer present. And as a final example, this is a proactive installation support example. A new time installation for a service provider. The service provider had a return to floor level error that required a simple adjustment to the pressure switch. Later in the evening, the master technician was monitoring the admin panel and has seen that a different event was recorded for this lift, the outer barrier sensor. So this particular lift is an FMVSS lift. Video was sent to the installer by email with video instructions on how to adjust the outer barrier during commission. So yes, the next morning the problem was addressed and the outer barrier was calibrated correctly. Yeah, they were very impressed. And yeah, I will now pass you over to Lewis. I hope the information here has been informative and that it has piqued your interest. There's a lot more information available in the Mobility Networks University about the application if you want to learn more. There's also more scenarios in there. And as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with your account manager. Lewis?
That was beautifully done, Gabby. Absolutely beautifully done. Yeah, so if you are interested in taking a look at the app after what you've just seen, it is available on both Apple, iOS, and Android devices. Do check it out. You can scan that QR code as well if you are watching this after broadcast to take you to the App Store or the Google Play Store. Now, we did have some time for Q&A, but we have run over time, which we did fear would happen. Trying to condense this much information into 20 minutes is always a tough one. So as Gabby did say, please feel free to get in touch with your account manager or email us at info@mobilitynetworksgroup.com, or you can just go to our contact page on our website and you can fill out a form there as well. So yeah, that is everything. I know it's a lot of information to take in, but we do thank you for joining us in the webinar. We will be sending out the recording of this webinar to all of those who registered, and we'll also make it available on our socials as well, which the links for which are accessed on the screen. So again, thank you all, and we'll see you soon.